ဒီတော့နေမလို့အခါမှာအစာဝတ်တော့ပဲရှောင်တာဒါကလည်းပဲအရေးကြီးပါတယ်ခုခေတ်ကအများအားဖြင့်ညစာဒင်းနာဆိုတော့အထူးတလဲလှုပ်ရှားကြတာပဲဒီနောက်အထူးတလဲလှုပ်ရှားပြီးတော့ကာမဘုံသားပြီးပေါ့လေကာမဂုဏ်အာယုန်တွေကိုပြောကြတော့ပါလေဒီတော့ကာမကိုအားပြီးတဲ့ညစာလေးရှောင်ထားတယ်ဆိုတော့တရားအထုတ်ရေးမှာကာမကိလေသာကိမသမာဓိရဖြစ်လွယ်တာပါညစာချောင်ထားတယ်ပဲသမာဓိတိကကျင့်သုံးရေးမှာအထောက်အကူအများကြီးဖြစ်ပါလား
Among the three trainings, the training of sila sekha, is the method for controlling vitikama kilesas, gross transgressions of body and speech. For lay people, one must keep at least 5 precepts. If one does, then this is purity of sila visuddhi. And this is enough for a layperson this is enough of a basis for a layperson to then practice and develop concentration and knowledge. But here, because 8 precepts is a better support for the practice, we take 8 precepts. And what that involves is, in the 5 precepts, instead of the rule regarding not committing adultery and sexual misconduct, we observe the rule of abramacharya, which is to avoid all sexual behavior. And because we avoid all sexual relations, it is a higher form of sila than the sila regarding sexuality that is in the 5 precepts. And in addition to this, we observe the precept to avoid eating food and similar food-like drink after noon. And this is because dinner is a meal that often contributes to the enjoyment of sense pleasures. It's a meal that often leads to further indulgences. So it helps our samadhi to avoid eating dinner. It helps the training of samadhi sekha. And the next rule that we observe is that of avoiding dancing and singing. These also are an activity that contribute to enjoyment of sense pleasures. So in the practice we avoid these. And we also avoid, this rule also includes avoiding self-beautification using perfumes and makeup and so on. Because doing this also is an activity that contributes to enjoyment of sense pleasures. And last, we observe the rule of refraining from lying or sleeping on high and luxurious beds. Well, fancy beds, big wide sleeping places are things that people who are engaging in sexual activity often use. And thus these types of beds contribute to enjoyment of sense pleasures. And for people who are avoiding sense pleasures, are avoiding sexual activity, it's reasonable to avoid sleeping on a bed that is high, wide, luxurious. here we are going from the realm of sense pleasures to the realm of Dhamma in order to gain the happiness of the Dhamma that is much, much better than any type of sensual happiness. The Dhamma not only keeps us from falling down to a low state, it also gives happiness to the practitioner. And if we develop knowledge, we gain a happiness that never becomes old, that it is a lasting happiness. We never get bored of it. So for people who want to gain a happiness that is much better than anything experienced through the senses, then dinner, eating food at night, and singing and dancing, making oneself beautiful with adornments and makeup, jewelry, and so on, and sleeping on high, luxurious beds are not. These things are inappropriate. There are two kinds of sila: vareta sila and chareta sila. Vareta sila, it means things that are to be avoided. So these types of precepts that are the precepts regarding not eating food, not dancing and singing and so on, these are not part of vareta sila. These are part of chareta sila. That is, if we do these, they're not things we have to abstain from, because if we do them, we incur a kusala. If we eat dinner, we're not doing an unwholesome deed. But we practice this type of restraint as a wholesome thing to do. What is essential or important is to observe vareta sila. That is, to avoid the actions of killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, drugs and intoxicants. Vareta sila means to observe refraining from these misdeeds. And when one's sila of vareta sila, this restraining from gross misdeeds, is complete, when one looks at oneself, one's mind feels clear. And on the other hand, if we've broken these basic 5 precepts, then when we look at ourselves, when we look back at our actions, we feel regret and sorrow. So today Sayadaw would like to speak about how happiness arises in regard to observing sila. For monks, they have the sila that is observed by monks. And in short, this involves 227 rules. And if these are to be expanded upon, it's something like 9 billion rules. So this all is called the Vinaya. It's also called Patimaukkha. These are the rules that the monks observe. And Patimaukkha means something that liberates one from a low place. So one who keeps sila is able to lift up their life. So if one wants to lift up one's life, one follows these rules. The Buddha established various rules for the monks of things that they must avoid doing. And when they keep these, then their physical and verbal behavior is pure. And the Patimaukkha sila is complete. When one's sila is complete, when it is whole, then one is destroying kilesas that can pull us down to the apaya realms. And because one is destroying these kilesas that can pull us down to the apaya realms, one will go to the realms, the happy realms of the kama sense world. So everyone wants good things, and no one wants bad things to happen. So Patimauka Sila, the Sila observed by monks, is like a mouth through which wholesome deeds can happen. It's like it makes it possible to do further good deeds. It makes one's physical and verbal, it means that one is doing good deeds by way of body and speech. And in addition to this, because it is a support to gaining mental purity. So it brings happiness when we observe sila. If one wants to make one's life happy and improve one's life, then first of all, one has to have a method for doing this. So the first thing to do is to refrain from doing bad deeds and refrain from wrong speech in order to be free of misdeeds. Misdeeds of body and speech are like an opening through which akusala enters. Beings, especially humans, need food to live. We can't live without food, so we eat every day. And to get food into our body, the mouth is very important. If we don't have a mouth, it's not easy to get food into the body. When people are sick, doctors use other means for getting food into the body, but these means aren't natural. If one's mouth isn't good, then it's not easy to get food into the body. And when we don't have food coming into the body sufficiently, then we don't have the nourishment that spreads throughout the body due to food. And because of the lack of nourishment, the blood can't circulate well. And this brings about ill health, and we can even die. Similarly, physical and verbal refraining from misdeeds, is like a mouth. And if this mouth of our physical and verbal restraint is not in good condition, then it won't be easy to make our life better. It won't be easy to develop the mind. The sila is necessary as a basis for developing purity of mind and for developing the knowledge of things as they really are. This knowledge, vipassana knowledge, which develops in stages. Because the mouth of sila is not good, it is not able to be a base for concentration, purity of mind to arise. And this basis of concentration is needed for knowledge to arise. So our sila must be good in order to have the base for developing a clean mind and knowledge. So if our physical and verbal behaviors are good, then it's easy to develop mental purity, and knowledge too can naturally develop. So when one keeps good physical and verbal behavior, then one is a true human being, and with a clean mind, clean concentrated mind, one gains a human mentality. And with knowledge, with the development of knowledge, one gains knowledge that makes one a special human being. So the mouth of sila is very important. It's said, avitikamo sila. That is, sila is restraint from misdeeds. The misdeeds of killing, stealing, adultery, lying, and taking drugs. Or it can be just said as refraining from physical and verbal misdeeds. So avitikamo means not to transgress. And there's also sila regarding controlling the mind when an object arises at any of the sense doors. Controlling the eye door, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, the mind. Whenever an object arises, to restrain the mind. So physical and verbal restraint is called sila. And there's sila is something that we do in order not to transgress. So that kilesas do not arise, we control our senses. All kusala has restraint at the base. All kusala is based on restraint. It said samvara mulaka. So without restraint, one's physical, verbal, and mental behavior will not be clean, and for the most part, akusala, unwholesomeness, will be what is happening. Monks and novices keep the Vinaya sila. And lay people keep sila that is relevant to the life of a lay person. Each must keep one's own relevant sila. One who does, whether they are a monk or a lay person, is called Vinayadhara. One who keeps the Vinaya. So this is a word used for both monks and for lay people. If we keep our relevant sila, if we keep the sila that is related to our life, whether we are a monk or a lay person, we come to inherit good deeds. And this is very good. Because the root of wholesomeness is restraint of body and speech. And this is this is important to understand. Vinaya is what brings about physical and verbal restraint. And the Buddha described in a very simple way the series of benefits that come about due to the Vinaya. He said that Vinaya samvarataya, that is, that the Vinaya is for restraint. It has the result of bringing about restraint. The Vinaya outlines that what shouldn't be done. The Buddha said, don't do these things. They harm others and they bring about bad results for oneself. And when one observes these, these prohibitions of the Vinaya, if one observes these bravely with faith, then this Vinaya brings about restraint of one's physical and verbal behavior. So one gains this benefit from keeping the Vinaya. Samvara, or restraint, it brings about the lack of regret, avipatisarataya. If we have done something bad, when we reflect upon our misdeeds, then we feel regret. And also others can blame us. And if we break the law, if we've broken the law, then we can be subject to prosecution, be jailed, fined. We can even be put to death. And the chaitana involved in doing misdeeds also brings about bad rebirth. So when we reflect on our misdeeds, we feel regret. But when there is restraint, samvara, then we don't feel regret. So this is the benefit, the result of restraint. The lack of regret brings about happiness. How can we possibly be happy if we reflect on bad things we've done? But if we reflect on good things that we've done, then we'll feel happy. We'll start to feel joy. This small happiness, minor happiness, leads to joy, strong joy, to the extent that our sila is complete and kept clean. Then when one reflects on one's physical and verbal acts, strong joy, piti, arises. So when we practice, this is even more true. During the practice, if we reflect on our sila, together with the practice that we are doing, one feels a lot of joy. Joy, both weak and strong joy, leads to passaddhi, the tranquility of both body and mind. This is the taste of the Dhamma, and to the extent that there is joy, there will arise tranquility. Peacefulness means freedom from excessive heat, freedom from heat. This is sukha, a happy, cool peacefulness. It's when it feels good. And passaddhi or tranquility leads to this cool feeling of happy peace. Sukha results in samadhi. That is, this peacefulness results in concentration. When the mind is peaceful, then it falls repeatedly on the object. For those who practice samatha, it falls repeatedly on the same object again and again. But for those doing vipassana, it means that each time we aim the mind and make effort to observe the arising object, the mind falls collectedly on that object. So sukha results in samadhi. For samatha practitioners, first there's upachara samadhi, followed by appana samadhi, which results in jhana. If this samadhi arises, it is because of sukha. It arises due to happiness. For vipassana practitioners, with every arising object, we make effort and aim the mind. And when there is samadhi, the mind falls collectedly on the object. So when the object arises, we apply effort to observe the object, and sati sticks to the object, and the mind falls collectedly on the object again and again. This is called khanika samadhi. So when we apply effort to observe the arising object, laziness cannot enter one's mind stream. It has no chance to arise. When we apply effort, sati sticks to the object, and the mind is protected by sati, mindfulness. Sati guards the mind. It makes it secure so that kilesas can't enter one's mind stream. When the mind is collected on the object, it is said, avikepo samadhi. Samadhi with samadhi, the mind doesn't scatter. And it's also said that it has the function to collect the mind on the object, sambindana raso. So with this good samadhi, with this good khanika samadhi, one sees that there is mental and physical phenomena, mind and matter, that is nama and rupa. And one further comes to see how these are related as cause and effect. One comes to see that this mind and matter, rupa and nama, which are related by cause and effect, arise and pass away, are unsatisfactory and lack an inherent self. One comes to see how these mental and physical phenomena related by cause arise and pass away very quickly. This is due to good khanika samadhi, good momentary concentration. So it is said that yatha bhuta jnana dasana, being able to see things as they really are, occurs due to good khanika samadhi. So samadhi brings about, khanika samadhi brings about yatha bhuta jnana dasana, seeing things as they really are. When one sees clearly that mental and physical phenomena, which are related as cause and effect, arise and pass away continually, one sees that they arise and immediately fall apart. They're arising and then just becoming destroyed. So they are born one second and die the next. No one likes something that is destroyed like that. No one can think that this is good. So we see that this is the phenomena in our mind and body is like this. And we see that it is happening without any control on our own part. Seeing this, the true nature of phenomena, no one will possibly see it as pleasant. One becomes weary, bored with this experience, which is just born and then dies the next second. Becoming bored, wearied with the mind and body process, one also becomes free of clinging to it. Especially one becomes free of raga. One doesn't take pleasure in it anymore because one no longer sees it as good. At that time, the kilesas, which are gross and which make us dirty, these are being destroyed. They have no chance to arise. So no matter how likable an object is, at this time in the practice, no greed will arise regarding that object. No matter how disgusting an object is, No dislike or anger will arise for the object. Knowledge occurs each time we observe, and therefore there's no ignorance. So in each moment one is becoming free. It is said that, not clinging, not taking things as good, leads to freedom. Vimotataya. We become free of the rule of the kilesas in the practice, because in every moment we are destroying them. We are destroying the greed, destroying anger, destroying ignorance. We become free of the akusalas which create new life. So this freedom is called vimutti. With sila as our base, because one practices, to the extent one destroys, to the extent the kilesas are destroyed, one becomes free of their rulership. And if one really practices, if one really makes effort in the practice, then one will experience this. When one is free of the control of the kilesas, with the trainings of sila, samadhi, and panya, one will be, it's very evident that one will be free, become free of the gross, the medium, and the refined levels of kilesas. Whenever an object is observed, kilesas are being destroyed. So we are free of the rule of the kilesas in that moment. And when vipassana knowledge comes to completion, then one goes from observing the endless stream of mental and physical phenomena called pavata to apavata, that which does not arise and pass away. This is true viraga. This is the moment of path knowledge. And following that, there is fruition, phala. And following that is turning back and looking on what, on this reflective knowledge, also called vimutti jnana dasana. It's when one looks back and reflects on the purity that one has gained. And so it's also called pechavekkhana jnana, but in English it means reflective knowledge. So what is at the root of this result? It is sila, restraint. So see how beneficial this sila is. It results in our reaching the highest level of knowledge. So all yogis, please keep your relevant sila. Monks, keep the sila of monks. Novices, keep the sila of novices. Lay people, keep your sila. Keep it purely and practice diligently. Sayadaw urges you to do this and concludes the talk for tonight. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.